Mindset strengthens your intuition and empowers lasting change. Work with me through single sessions, 90-day or 6-month programs, or explore my courses, books, and coaching. Visit becknelson.com to get started.
What if your training isn't enough? The Multicultural Mindset Podcast invites counselors and therapists to unlearn the one-size-fits-all approach. This isn't cultural competence. It's a way of being that brings racialized experiences from the margins to the very center of care. Let's stop pathologizing Black pain and start challenging the system that created the bias in the first place. Visit newseasons.training to subscribe.
Parents, do you have questions about navigating the journey of parenthood? Be Your Influence is the best place to find answers and guidance to help you become the parent you want to be. Focusing on the transformative power of emotions, energy, and empowerment, often overlooked yet essential for thriving families, my programs equip both parents and young people to master what they can control. Get your free guide, A Parent's Guide to Understanding and Addressing Bullying, at beyourinfluence.love.
Hi, I'm Michelle, and I want to welcome you to the Real Healing Institute. This is more than a place of healing. It's where the divine meets you exactly where you are. So many people come to me feeling broken, carrying pain, trauma, or beliefs that keep them small. They tell me they've tried everything and nothing has worked. And I always smile gently because I know they're not broken. They're simply waiting to be set free. Through subconscious soul healing, guided by divine truth and universal love, I help you release wounds at the deepest level so you can step into peace, joy, and abundance. My work is rooted in the Christ letters and the understanding that your thoughts, words, and actions carry a vibration powerful enough to transform your life. When you heal at the soul level, you don't just feel better. You awaken to who you truly are. And if you're ready for that transformation, you can book a session with me at therealhealinginstitute.com.
What if Sanctuary wasn't just a place, but a way of living? Welcome to the Sanctuary Network, your weekly home for conversations that awaken the heart, heal the body, and inspire the spirit. I'm your host, Mary Ellen Popick, the creator of Spirit Fest and the Natural Wellness Expos. For 2 decades, I've been creating spaces, now creating a bold new broadcast for mind, body, and spirit, where seekers, healers, and teachers come together to share wisdom, laughter, and transformation. We've seen what happens when communities gather. People become enlivened. Now, through the Sanctuary Network, that same spirit is reaching you, wherever you are in the world. Each week, we'll sit down with thought leaders, authors, and everyday visionaries. We'll also shine a light on the grassroots voices of the sanctuary marketplace, the healers, vendors, and practitioners who make this movement thrive. This isn't just another show, it's your sanctuary, a space to pause, reflect, and reconnect with what matters most. So, take a deep breath, open your heart, and join me. Together, let's step into the sanctuary. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us. We have another really interesting show for you. And I think this is maybe our 6th or 7th show that we have done here on the Sanctuary Network. And we're still kind of finding our groove a little bit. We've got really great ideas, being able to share all of the great resources of, vendors, readers, healers, the people that are at our shows that set up that we can recommend. And we have a very special guest with us who was our special speaker at our last 2 Spirit Fest events, Jim Vieira. I'll give him a full introduction here in a second. So thank you for joining us again.
Yes, my pleasure.
But we are going to have a discussion, the 2 of us, and we hope that maybe you'll participate. You can call in if you want to ask questions or give comments. When we put up the photo for tonight's show, I got several messages from people that I know that said, I had a family member in a cult, or I had some experience there. And I thought that was exactly why I wanted to do this show. And I will admit I had one myself. And the way that you come into this now is not how it used to be. So before we kind of just jump into everything, I would like to give the number 800-930-281 if anybody would like to call in or have a comment later on. Our producer will definitely take your calls. You can speak to Jim or I. And so, without further ado, let me tell you about Mr. Jim Vieira. He's an author, stonemason, world explorer, historical detective, and host of the History Channel shows Search for the Lost Giants and Roanoke, Search for the Lost Colony. He's also appeared on Expedition Unknown with Josh Gates, Legends of the Lost with Megan Fox, and many other really well-known shows, including Ancient Aliens. So many of you may have seen him on Ancient Aliens as well. But what most people don't know, and which I'm also trying to help Jim share this with the world, he is a really great spiritual teacher. He has a lot of knowledge. He's a lifelong student in the Course in Miracles and well versed in the readings of Edgar Cayce. He's spoken at the ARE, at their Ancient Mysteries conferences 6 times. So with his experience weaving into spirituality and all of the research that he has done, including on sociology, we are able to notice a lot of things. And again, we opened the sanctuary, I think in 2005, but I've really been a student of metaphysics since about 97. And again, you just learn a lot of things, you see a lot of things and experience it. And then now with being out in the public, I've had a lot more dealings with things. So that's why and again, the personal experience with what would consider to be a cult. So let's talk about what are cults. So they used to be very well known, like the Manson family, Jonestown, Jim Jones.
Jim Jones in Guyana.
Yes, and Nexium, and that is spelled Nxivm. If anybody hasn't heard of it, that's kind of a newer one. And then Heaven's Gate, and these people, Nexium probably was the most mainstream, but the Manson family and Jonestown, those were going to be late 60s, early 70s, I think. Those just look like cults. The Manson family, they all, they didn't bathe. They, they did a lot of drugs. They were on drugs a lot of the time, and they just looked and smelled very weird from what I understand. But Jonestown, they moved everybody to Guyana, right?
Yes.
And it was on this compound, and he had convinced them at a certain point that they were all going to drink the Kool-Aid. That is literally where that saying comes from those of you who were not around then. And there was a congressman who came to Jonestown to free or rescue, in his mind, one of his kids, and they shot him at the airport. They knew he was coming, and then that was when he put out the call, and everybody, men, women, and children, drank the Kool-Aid, and hundreds of them died.
Yeah.
So then Heaven's Gate was, I think, in the 90s, and that was a small group of fairly unusual individuals. They all were, well, I think they dressed conservatively, but they all died in tracksuits with chains near their head.
Yes.
And
they all had it was like almost like a fundamentalist / New Age philosophy. You see a lot of extremism and fundamentalism in cult-like ideas, blended sometimes with New Age concepts, with a Messiah complex, or a Messiah who is leading it, who has a Messiah complex, who can't be questioned. Stages and hierarchies are one of the control mechanisms of the cult. So you have the unquestioned leader, but then you have special levels for people to climb so they can feel better, their insecurities can be mitigated, and they can feel special, essentially, and listen to the insanity of the cult leader and not question it, because they're getting special benefits. Sex, oftentimes, drugs, power over other people. The lower ego satisfactions are what are given to these beings who rise up the ranks. So the hierarchical structure, it's the bane of existence for any humans. And I'll just throw out there that any spiritual teacher worth the salt would tell you, because many people who get into cults are seeking spiritual knowledge, right? Spiritual wisdom. But spirituality is a self-study program. Well, every couple decades or 100 years, a Ramana Maharshi or a Buddha or a Jesus will show up, and they don't even say anything. They just sit there and emanate this incredible state. They don't instruct you. They don't berate you. There's no hierarchy. They say, you're just like me. Everything is, equal in eternity. But when you get into the cult-like mindset, that is flipped on its head.
right.
And you have this unfortunate orientation of a hierarchy.
And so Nexium, and that's a really unusual situation too, because it started out more of almost a professional group, self-help, how to be a better person. And they really did have a lot of good and motivating speeches. And that was really well received. It was very expensive. That would be something else I think to look at, is if their information is that special that it's going to cost you tens and tens of thousands of dollars to be able to get the information. I'm not saying that that's a sign of a cult, but it was maybe something that you would want to question. But then what they did was they broke off into this. So the leader of the cult, the leader of Nexium, Keith Raniere, he's in jail now. He Everybody looked up to him because he was the creator of all this. Even though he trained teachers and different teachers taught the thing, they all looked up to him as this, amazing man. Then he convinced them that there was even higher levels that they could go, and that there was smaller groups, and of course it was mostly all women. And that's when then it took a dark turn. And they kept it secret because they really believed that he had secret information or special information that he was giving them, and he was really going to make them a better person. And if you recall, the what's her Catherine Oxenberg's daughter, India.
Yeah.
The mother made a public plea for her to break away from that, and that's another sign too of a cult, when they try to separate you from your family or convince you to break away from your family. But we'll actually list, I think, some different flags that there are, but those are some really good examples of it. And then, we even talked about MLMs, some of them, and it's not necessarily that they're sort of like a leader, but there's more of a group mentality that you need to all keep up with each other, and that you want to do what everybody else does. And I know, oh gosh, it was probably 10 years ago now, the essential oil companies got into trouble. And again, we're not casting any negative dispersions on any groups or religions or anything like that. But the FDA came down on the essential oil groups because they were all telling each other that these were miracle cures, and then they were posting it online. They weren't testing it out or had any type of proof of it, and then that's why they got into trouble. And again, that was just kind of going in without any basis, any factual information.
Yeah. Objectivity is lost pretty quickly.
And that's a key.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I remember there was this thing called the laundry ball years ago. It was MLM, and it was supposed to, you throw it in instead of detergent. And
Sounds good.
but yeah, it sounds good. And then
Was it Amway?
it wasn't Amway.
Okay.
It was
Amway has really good products, but
no.
Yeah.
What it was a ball that had no science behind it, and they had this one page readout about some phony physics and how it worked.
okay.
But everybody got on board because it seemed like such a great idea. It was such a good thing to pitch. Like, no more laundry detergent. You save money. You have this ball, it lasts forever, and it just leads to a lack of self-reflection or objective thinking about reality,
Mhm.
because you want it to be true. And that's what happens in cults. You have basically information that's just absolutely crazy from the outside, but people want to believe it. And it's a personality type too. I'll say, like, there was an intelligence agency aspect to some of this cult-like behavior. Like, at the free clinic at Haight-Ashbury, Manson's girls were seen by an MK Ultra doctor. That's well known. That's not, some conspiracy thread somewhere. That is an actual fact. And at Jonestown in Guyana, you had MK Ultra experiments going on. You had 55-gallon drums of all kinds of drugs. But you also have a personality type. Leo Ryan was the congressman who showed up there to blow the whistle and rescue his daughter. He got killed on the tarmac, as Mary Ellen said. His daughter escapes, and she ends up at Osho's cult in Oregon. Rajneesh, the Netflix special, Wild Wild Country, it's called. It's like a 6 or 8 part special, and it just shows this the same craziness that unfolds: the drug use, the alcohol use, the sex. That's what you have to have factors that will rope people in usually, and drugs and sex are good ones. And you have female cult leaders sometimes, but the male is usually the one. Where I live in Massachusetts, there are ashrams and yoga studios with sexual misconduct over and over again. And my point is, like, Leo Ryan's daughter was a personality type who went right back to another cult. So it's really it's disturbing, but it's just the nature of the beast. When you have insecurities, when you don't go to therapy, when you don't work on yourself, you're deluded by these things, and that's what happens. You could just see it unfold in all these cult-like settings.
Yeah. That was one that we forgot to mention was the mother god.
Yes.
She was there was a video or a documentary about her, and it's almost funny, but it's not funny. But she was also very charismatic, and she had really good teachings. And then she had a group of people that were convinced that she was Mother God, that she would literally was, a gift to the earth. And then drinking, and then she would convince them that she needed to drink all of this because it helped her, assimilate on earth or all these other things. And they were literally codependent and fueling her alcoholism. And then they got into was it the what is it? The silver.
Oh, colloidal silver.
Colloidal silver, and she took because they believed that that was going to cure her because
Yeah.
that was what God said that she turned blue.
Well, that's a red flag right out of the gate. Once
Yeah.
somebody says God, you could be a channeler and channel some divine entities, but when God's talking to you, when the one is talking to you specifically, and when the message is utterly insane, that's a huge red flag. And the whole Mother God thing she was an insecure, overreaching alcoholic who formulated this insane philosophy. And at first, it was monetarily uh, positive for her group. So
Mhm.
they kept selling and selling, and they had a huge following. It was during the pandemic too, so everybody was trapped at home. And money is a good motivator at first, especially for the cult leaders. And then she started choosing Father God partners because she was like a swinger, and it got worse and worse. And she got some extremely violent, mentally ill Father God at the end when everything unraveled. But you see these people, and if you look at their history of speeches and talks, and you just see the path they go down, and it's tough to step out of when you're. This isn't to criticize people in there, but when you're caught in that, you shake your head after, and you're like, I can't believe I stuck around for so long, or I
Yeah.
let them do that to me. But that's part of the process. It's just a very troublesome dynamic.
And that was the thing is like, at what point did it become crazy? What point did the stuff that she was saying? So, one of the things that was troubling for some of the people was her decline with the alcoholism. And then again, she was isolating people and wanting them to stay with her. She wanted them to reject real medicine. That was
Yeah.
why, because again, they were selling more colloidal silver. So she also convinced them that the reason that she was physically deteriorating, which was probably due to alcoholism,
Yeah.
quite honestly, and overconsumption of the colloidal silver, she convinced them that she was absorbing the world's pain. So I think just applying some common sense, but it's hard when you're in it with these people and you feel that it's part of a group and you feel that this might be your spiritual home. It is really hard. It's like standing up to your friends. It's easier to stand up to strangers than it is to stand up to your friends. But finally, I think the last person that left, and believe it or not, there are still a couple of followers that do have a show on YouTube, but it was when she died and they drove her across the country and landed at somebody's house with her mummified corpse wrapped up in a sleeping bag and put it in his bedroom that he finally went, somebody said,
Well, thinking
this,
she was going to come back.
yeah.
And it was so demented, and the cops broke down the door, and that's like this. I think it's the start of the Amazon series when they find the body.
Oh yeah. And
Mummified corpse, and
yeah.
it's really really disturbing. But that's the level of delusion that can occur. Once again, the people listening and our orientation is um, a lot of people, I'll say this, like they get taken advantage of when they're sick or somebody they know is very sick, and you're seeking, mainstream therapies aren't working. So you seek alternative means. You're open to spiritual ideas. But I'll reiterate that whether it's Ramana Maharshi, A Course in Miracles, Jesus, Buddha, Lao Tzu, they're all telling you you're divine and perfect, and you've fallen into matter, whatever you call this place, whatever you want to make of the world.
Mhm.
Nothing that happens in time and space alters your perfection.
Mhm.
So you undo what is false to reestablish your permanent natural state, which is blissful.
Right.
Yeah, I got some work to do, but the point is that it's a self-study program. That's why the A Course in Miracles is so great, because it's every day it's a lesson to undo. It's not the accumulation of intellectual understanding. It is the undoing of false beliefs. And that's what every master says. If you want to learn how to play football, you talk to Tom Brady. If you want to learn about enlightenment and self-help, you follow and read all the classic spiritual texts and teachers throughout history, and they all say the same specific and radical thing. So that's where I lean on this. It's like you have a situation where you have to mostly do it yourself every day. The hard work, the repetition, the undoing, and that's why I like A Course in Miracles or Ramana Maharshi Self Inquiry personally. One of the things that's interesting is the terms used in A Course in Miracles are very relevant to this discussion. Projection, specialness,
Mm-hmm.
the idea of like, oh, I'm here and Mary Ellen's over there. Oh, I love Mary Ellen, but I can't stand the guy down the street. Special love, special hate fuels the separation instead of perfect love for all, which isn't easy. But when you see it as it's one emanation from the field of the one outside of time and space, what you see in another that you don't like is basically an unhealed aspect, but you project on the other, you judge the other because it feels good, you get a hit out of it, and you get that terrible feeling away from you. So while you want the world to be perfect, the Course would say essentially there is a force that stands at the end of time called the Holy Spirit that awakens everybody in their most efficient timeline. So in fact, if you want to save the world, become enlightened, heal yourself. Do it first though, because the unhealed healer is being driven by the ego, and the cult leaders are the unhealed healers, or just the lunatics that are preying on people's desperation.
But nobody intends to join a cult. Nobody says, oh, I really want some good spirituality. I'll just go join a cult. It starts out with something so ambiguous, and channelers. We like listening to channelers, and there are some really good ones out there. And then there are some other ones that could really lead you astray. And you really don't know what level that they're channeling. Or, they could be really channeling some, I won't even say dark, but definitely some lower density channeling, and then you kind of pay attention to that for a while, and then it kind of goes south. It's learn, we all have our spiritual pursuits, and it's all good that we learn different things, but it's being able to call it. It's being able to notice those flags.
Absolutely. No, that's a good segue for remind me what we were talking about. Well, first of all, it's not all unicorns and rainbows in the universe and time and space. It's a realm of duality. So you have good and evil, you have negative spirits, and something I never believed in until I experienced many, many times, positive and negative entities. And I'll say that I had a traumatic brain injury playing football, and I ended up doing weeks of ayahuasca ceremonies in the rainforest in Ecuador. And there was a bathroom. We'd have this huge circle and we'd do ceremonies. And there was somebody who would sage the bathrooms because you would purge on both ends over and over again and release negative attached entities for real. And the shaman were like, the shaman's the tour guide through the crazy experience, the one that keeps you, your shit together while you're just basically releasing all kinds of entities and insanity and wrong ways of thinking. But I actually encountered negative entities in some of my ayahuasca ceremonies. So you have a portal that's opened through different means like alcohol, spirits, low vibration. We all lived without, I luckily didn't have that much, trauma, or my father was pretty straight laced and my mom was too. But we all have friends who are alcoholics or abusive, and it opens the door to darkness. There's no question about it. It's not like Good Time Charlie, I'm going to throw back a couple drinks. It really opens you up. And that's one of the things to notice here is that alcohol in your life and alcohol in the lives of the people that you know, don't underestimate its extremely destructive nature, not just physically or socially, but basically being taken over, if you will.
We're going to get more into that in the next topic or the next segment when we talk about Ruby Frank and Jody Hildebrand.
Mm-hmm.
That was crazy. And that was some of the stuff that we've been researching, and we realized that there's a lot that even we didn't know, and how much of a cult that actually was. So thank you for joining us. Come back in after the break and we'll get more back into it. Thank you, everybody.
Hi, this is the Celtic seer, Barbara McGillicuddy, and you can find me at barbara.mcgillicuddy.com or on YouTube at Metaphysical Awakenings with Barbara and Eric. As a medium and animal communicator, it is my joy to speak with people on this side and people who have crossed over to bring forth beautiful messages of love.
Hi, I'm Susan from My Enchanted Path, where I create divinely guided candles, intention oils, soaps, and more that make your spiritual practice simple. No complicated rituals needed. The names may be playful, but every product is serious about helping you shift your energy. All fragrances are clean and safe, free from the major toxins no one wants in their home or on their skin. With a 5-star rating and over 100,000 customers, MyEnchantedPath.com is a place to find charming items for an enchanted life.
Are you longing for the deepest healing of your soul? The kind that transforms you from the soul outward? At JewishHealer.com, Dr. Doran Shalev offers powerful energy healing rooted in the ancient wisdom of Kabbalah, where he heals the body through the soul and the soul through divine connection. Your transformation begins with a single session. Treat yourself and book yours today at JewishHealer.com. All sessions are 50% off through December.
Join us for Spirit Fest, coming soon to a city near you. Spirit Fest is a metaphysical, holistic, and crystal expo featuring an amazing array of vendors, speakers, authors, artists, crystals, healers, psychic readers, and more. Spirit Fest is your chance to explore and connect with others of like mind. Get all details, including our upcoming locations up and down the East Coast, also discounted admission, and more at spiritfestusa.com. Our next event is January 10th and 11th with special guests and special presentations, including psychic explorer, medium Mark Anthony, and also historical researcher, explorer, and author Jim Vieira. More details are coming to our website soon, and we look forward to seeing you at Spirit Fest in 2026. Welcome back. We're having a really interesting discussion about cults. And there's so many different levels to what a cult is and how people would get mixed up with one, because nobody decides that they're going to just go join a cult that is not in anyone's best interest. It just kind of happens. And we were talking about some of the ways, that you can accidentally get in there. And then we're going to talk about flags that you might be able to notice. And I'm here with my special guest, Jim Vieira. You can find Jim on Facebook. Those of you who are watching us on Facebook, he's tagged in all of our posts too. He has a website, jimvieira.com, that's not currently there right now, but it will be soon.
It's a new one. It's getting it
was really good. I don't know what happened to it. They took it down to fix it, but it was really good before. So, but Jim is just coming out with a new book, Footprints of the Gods, which is about polydactylism, beings with 6 fingers or 6 toes. That's really interesting. So we're looking forward to that coming out really soon. So, in preparation for this show, we were really doing a lot of research about Ruby Frank and Jody Hildebrandt. And I know that, and again, I want to be very clear, we are not at all, talking down about any religion, but a lot of cultish or criminal behavior does seem to center around the Mormons, but I want to stress that it is the fundamentalist Mormons. Lori Vallow, again, offshoots, and then a lot of that, the fundamentalists with all the wives, where the men have all the wives, and then they can reassign the wives to different men and things like that. Those are all offshoots of the Mormon Church. They're not mainstream. But Jody Hildebrandt was endorsed by the mainstream Mormon Church because she seemed like that she was a mental health therapist and she was espousing Mormon fundamentals that their tenets, I guess. But she was really, really, really hardcore, and despite many complaints about some of the things that she was doing, and one of the big ones was that she was separating men. She was kicking them out of the house, telling them that they needed to leave with zero contact with the wife and the children's and things like that. And things really went south from there. But a lot of kids, and she was also really big about telling them that she didn't believe them. She thought that that was like her trademark, that I don't believe you. I know you're not telling the truth. And again, the church really condoned it for a long time. She finally lost her license for revealing client information, and then she changed her title to a health coach, and then kind of got around that, unfortunately. So what happened with Ruby Frank, who was a huge YouTube star? I think she had like 1 million followers.
Yeah.
She had quite a lot. I think they had 6 kids, and very conservative parenting techniques. And Ruby joined up with Jody and then got into the whole thing where they convinced the husband to leave. And then 2 of the kids, I think, were older, and then she isolated them or cut them off. She didn't want them coming around the family anymore. And then for whatever reason, Ruby just kind of fell under the spell, so to speak.
The spell is right. Well, we should talk about the possession.
That's what we blew our minds.
Yeah.
So when you watch the documentaries, because the mainstream news doesn't really touch on this, being where I've had the store and things like that, I have seen healing sessions or different things where dark entities, evil spirits, call it whatever you want, a demon has been released from a being. And it's very scary, and it's not super unlike The Exorcist. It's really profound. And most of the people that get attachments like that, like you said, they're alcoholics or they have mental illness, trauma, where there's a fracture in the identity, and they get in there. And their goal is simply to just make you not progress as a human. They want to just stall your spiritual progress.
Unfortunately, it's like archonic, it's like Gnostic philosophy. They feed off your misery, essentially, because they don't have a divine spark. They're temporary specters in the world, and they feed off your divinity by basically keeping you off balance. It's rather insidious.
But in retrospect, watching the documentary, you'd think that that would have been a red flag. She's living in their house. She's moved in. She's convinced them to move into the house. The husband's still there at the time, and he's giving her blessings to release the spirit. But she, again, I've seen it, and I believe that she was full on.
She's saying the video that you don't see in the other special is that she's in a corner like this, saying, "She's mine, like obvious.
Yeah.
What was coming out of Jody's mouth, the entity was speaking about how it possessed her, and it was like almost smug about it, if you will. Like, I own this person. So they're sleeping together, Ruby and Jody.
To the documentary. Yeah.
The husband gets thrown out, gets separated. And one of the things you could see, she uses shame against all her clients or all her victims. Shame, 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 over and over again. And then they project that onto the children.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what was most disturbing, because one of the children, a young boy who was super, super emaciated and had like duct tape and cayenne pepper around the wrists and ankles, shows up at a neighbor's house just like a zombie. And that kicks off the whole, the cops come in, and wow, it's just so striking.
The similarity to Lori Vallow. So Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell had gotten married, And they believed that each other were gods, that they had found, that they were special chosen ones, and again, going to lead the 144,000 into the next thing. But they believed that they had the ability to spot demons. So then they convinced each other that her ex-husband, his wife, and her kids were all demons, and that they needed to, well, they got rid of them, is what they did. That's why she's in jail. It's why they're both in jail.
Yeah.
And again, just being able to murder your own children because you think that you're doing the Lord's work is really kind of a special type of.
Well, yes, well, special type of dementia. But one thing is, as the Buddha would say, is question everything. Question my teachings, he would say. Take nothing for granted. Excuse me, be objective about everything. And that is the problem with organized religion. It's honestly, there are no enlightened beings that are running any of the organized religions on earth. It's just a fact.
I know. I like the Pope, though.
Yeah, but he's not enlightened.
He's a good guy.
Yeah, I'm not saying, my point is, all throughout history, like a Ramana Maharshi sits in the ashram and just, he washes dishes and he like heals people with his energetic state, and he encourages people with kindness, and he never is prescriptive. He never berates anyone. He never treats anybody differently. That is a true master who has liberated themselves. So you have all the human desires, perversions. You see these elders and leaders at every church, and they get these dark secrets. I'm a recovering Catholic. My brother and I were altar boys in Boston, and we had one of the most notorious sex offenders as our pastor, and we used to give him a ride home from church. Leo V. Dwyer was his name.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd like tickle us. We didn't get molested. My mind got molested, but my mother would turn around. She had like an eagle's eye.
Mm-hmm.
This guy was demented. He was Whitey Bulger, the gangster in Southie's personal priest.
Mm-hmm.
Then he moved to Hull. So anyways, his sermons were fire and brimstone, and they were insanity, but we couldn't do anything at the time. Like if you watch the movie Spotlight,
Mm-hmm.
the cult of the Catholic Church at the time is true. They basically found the whole thing out and ran it like a child sex ring. And
We're not saying the Catholic
yeah,
Church
no,
is
no,
a cult.
no.
Not saying that.
I'm saying that. Sorry about that. I am saying that at the time, the way they handled the priests, if you watch Spotlight, if you're being objective, they shuffled around priests. They had designations, and many people I know ended up getting sexually abused because of that, because of the fact that there isn't an enlightened hierarchy in any of these institutions. That's all I'm saying. And with that comes all these problems. You have human perversions, you have human desires, like I said. So when you have cult-like behavior, sometimes there are tie-ins to the organized religions at the start, and then they devolve.
Right. But the similarities between Ruby Frank, Jody Hildebrand, and then Lori and Chad Daybell were really very frightening, because the Mormons encourage people to document everything. They journal. And when they found Ruby's journals, they were 100% convinced that there was demons in the kids.
Mm-hmm.
And they were planning to move out to the desert. And I believe that they said and dropped them like hot potatoes. And I do believe if that boy had not escaped, that the same thing would have happened to them. And it's just really scary. And, that's just a way to look at some of the ways that we get caught up in things like that just you don't ever intend to, but wanting to better yourself or look for more information, and it just kind of snowballs from there. But I'll talk a little bit about the situation that I was in, but rather than actually give names and give too much information, there was the cult of Jim Biera. There is something that people can look up online. It's Carol Hubbard versus the J Message Group. And it was around 2018, I think. And when I was in the group, it was a reincarnation study group that I was in with some really great people. And it was based on the work of Dr. Walter Simcoe, that he could identify people that were reincarnation of people that had lived around the Revolutionary time, celebrities, politicians. And it was a really good book, Return of the Revolutionaries. And Dr. Simcoe unfortunately passed away a few years ago, but did really groundbreaking work. And he is on the internet as well. So at the conferences, there was a gentleman who would channel, and he was channeling Jesus. But the information that was coming out was so compelling. And in retrospect, what happened then, everybody was so taken by this and believing that this was secret special information that we could only get there. It was like everybody turned their attention away from Dr. Simcu and the work he was doing, and now all of a sudden focusing on these channelings, and it just kind of took off from there. And then within weeks, I want to say, information came out, and then they ousted Dr. Simcu. Now, all of a sudden, because he was starting to say, hey, wait a minute, we might want to slow down a little bit and rethink this, then all of a sudden he was the bad guy. And they isolated him. They kind of turned him out. And then there was just other crazy things that were going on that I would talk to my friends, and I said, this is kind of a flag. This is kind of getting a little weird. And then again, the second that you challenge them or you point out that this is kind of crazy, then all of a sudden then they'll say all kinds of things about you and then basically oust you as well. But with Ms. Hubbard and her group, they were speaking publicly about her, that they were claiming in a past life, and this is all in public records, that she was a harlot basically in other lives, and that was carrying over into this life, and then just saying really unkind and untrue things about her. So she sued them for defamation, for invasion of privacy, emotional infliction of emotional distress. And then they came back and said, well, they're a religion and they can do whatever they want. And then that ended up being the basis of the case, was that the judge was going to have to interpret and evaluate religious doctrine. And because the assertions were intertwined with religion, he could not make a ruling. And that was really sad. So that's another thing to look at too, is is this stuff private? When you kind of turn yourself over to these groups, you open yourself up to a lot of these things. You just never know really what could happen. But all claims were dismissed, just for the record as well. But anybody could look it up.
Yeah, the same psychology applies. There's like cult-ish like orientations in society too. But frankly, we all know people who the algorithms have weaponized their preferences and they are extreme left or extreme right. And those people are mostly caught in this orientation of just basically not questioning any, like, it's everything the other side does is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And everything they get in their feed is the worst data you can get about your
Sorry, corgi alert.
Corgi alert. About the other side, about your ideological enemy on both sides, left and right. And it really causes, because we know those people, they're unreachable, they're agitated, they're filled with this belief that they're the right one and the good one,
right?
Instead of being moderate. Every one of these organized religions should be evaluated for their beliefs. Like, well, they all have different beliefs, so some of them must be wrong right out of the gate. Isn't that interesting? I'm going to burn in hell forever, like in a body, or because I was born on the wrong side of the tracks. Like I started, I know you at an early age. I was like 8 years old to my father. I'm like, this doesn't make logical sense. I read through all the scriptures and stuff. I was like a savant who couldn't take care of his basic needs. But I would say, it's illogical, Dad. Anybody like, what the hell are you going to do? It's a social club. Like, there was no pushback. And I would go to my CCD teacher and say, there are flaws in the logic here. These things don't line up with the Gnostic Gospels, the real teachings of Jesus, for instance. And you get to this place where you basically, if you look objectively, there are flaws in all these organized religions, or at least you should be able to question them without
absolutely.
pushback.
But the sign of a true cult is going to be about control, about they're going to tell you what to do and you can't do anything different, you can't question it. But about the manipulation, you just learn to see the manipulation too.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that most of the organized religion, it is what it is. You kind of get, I think, more into some of the kind of the offshoots, that they kind of might go off and do their own things. But there's even in the UFO community, people that are arguing about that they've got special secret information coming in from the extraterrestrials, but they're the only one who can give it to you.
Yeah.
And then that creates a big schism, because a lot of times people can identify that. When you say that you're the only one who can provide information or speak to Jesus or, help you get to heaven or any of those things, then that's another red flag.
It's just the nature of the beast. I don't want to disparage humanity, but A Course in Miracles would say, um, you know, people are pretty deluded when you over-identify with your body. You have a thought system that stands as a bulwark against truth, if you will.
Mhm.
You can have some pretty bizarre thoughts, and you can project and try to attain specialness and project your judgment on others. My point is, like, the organized religions set the stage or plant the seed of a hierarchical structure that feeds um, much more fundamental aspects and factions. And just like you said, in the UFO community, it's like it starts somewhere
Mhm.
with the specialness, with wow, this channel has all the answers, and
Right.
then it's kind of everybody's desire to belong and everything. It just takes over. But
And it's
yeah,
not a cult, but people want so much to believe that disclosure's coming, the
yeah,
ETs are coming, and by the way, it may just happen. We're not saying that
yeah,
might
yeah.
not
No,
happen
yeah.
either. That
But it's
very
year
well.
after year after year. It's
But we we may very well be at the precipice, but we want to believe so much that is going to happen that a
yeah.
lot of times people will just listen to anybody, and then sometimes that takes us down. I'll use Corey Good as an example. He was on Gaia TV, and he had people convinced that he had been in the secret
Space
space
program.
program, and he had all of this information and was giving all of this stuff out, and it turned out that he was really unbalanced, and they don't even show episodes of his show anymore, because he ended up just turning on them, because they wouldn't give him the accolades that he felt like that he deserved.
He got deposed and admitted, everything. He made up everything essentially,
Yeah.
and then backtracked and said he had to do. It's like lots of
Yeah.
red flags. And I don't even know the dude. I don't even want to take a run at anyone. I'm just saying that
Yeah.
in the alternative world, in the spiritual community, in the alternative health community, there's not a lot of peer review. So you
Yeah.
really got to be discerning,
Right.
because people want to believe. I find this a lot. I could be, more of a BS artist. I could, make up more stories. I
And a
could
lot of
get
people
more
do.
clicks.
They just
Yeah.
research their stuff on YouTube and then paraphrase it
And
into a book.
it's much easier, or it's much more compelling to cook up conspiracies and tell these
Mhm.
stories of, oh, I went to the lost city and the government arrested me or whatever. And
Mhm.
that's the thing. You need to be objective about everything essentially. And with social media, it's Rudolf Steiner-esque. It's like a war for your soul, and it's good just to be non-reactive to the world, to sit in silence and choose your sources wisely. Even though I may believe some controversial subjects, I like to, I debunk hoaxes.
Mhm.
I'm objective, I like to think, and it's a good way to be. It really calms everything down and sees, you can see with clear vision.
We always look for things that make us feel like that we've got some validation, that when if we believe this, it was validated by X and such.
Hmm.
And I will go back to the J message group that we were talking about, that is publicly listed. That how I compared it to is, if I came to you and I said, "Hey, I know your friend from 20 years ago, and he told me to tell you this." And that rang true. And then you're going to believe that everything else that they say is true. So that's what these channeled entities are doing, basically, is they're giving you enough information from the past or channeled information, because all personalities and all beings still are always going to exist in the grid. All of that information
Yeah.
is never going to go away, and that they can easily access that. That doesn't mean that then the newer information that they're giving you is right at all. There was a saying once I heard, just because they're dead doesn't mean they're smart.
Yeah. Yeah.
That they can talk to you from the other side doesn't at all mean that they are. But
Absolutely.
that's why it's not clear. It's really hard to get a good read
Yes.
on that, a little bit of validation. So the more validation you could get, and just like the ET things, the people that have been to Mars and can prove it, and these things, can they really? I don't know. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know, but
Well, I think personally, the more work you do on yourself, the more therapy, the more self-reflection, the more non-reactivity and honesty, you can see with clear vision,
mhm.
and you don't get roped in. You don't Your insecurities aren't like they used to be, because you can get when the mind is weak, you could want to overprove your case. You might want to seek revenge. You have, oh, I'm in this community and they're my enemy over
Yeah.
there.
And that's
Honestly,
where we get into the MLMs, the multi-level
yeah.
marketing things too. That theirs is the best product. There's nothing better than it, and they're just going to fuel everybody and want to do like everybody else does.
Totally.
Maybe not best for your business, but do like what everybody else does.
And I was an MLM once, and it's like addictive. It's just like, you've all seen, like, you've all got cornered by people who are selling the MLM pitch. They're out of their minds. They need to be hit with a blow dart with Depakote, because it just
That's not true.
it
Young Living essential oils.
Oh,
If
no,
the
I'm not saying all of them.
they're
I'm saying
well
the
specified, please.
well, I was an MLM, I guess.
I'm going to issue a mute button.
I'm talking about myself. No, because you get all wound up, and you're trying to draw people in, but it's not an objective evaluation of the situation, is what
And
I'm saying.
again, there's really good people in it, but then there are people that are looking for the money or may actually even believe some of the stuff that they were told, and they're just repeating it. And then again, it's about accountability and things like that.
Mhm.
So I'm trying to think of some of the other, like some of the clothing ones. Again, people will invest all the money that they have because they're convinced that this is going to be the greatest thing because someone's told them that they're going to be able to make
Yeah.
$100,000 a year or something like
I
that.
guess we're trying to say it's all of this is part of like one big psychology. Whether it's like I'm deep into a cult,
Yeah.
or I'm weaponized by my Facebook feed or my Twitter feed, because it's differing levels of misery and unacceptable energetic states for all of us. And I feel myself like, if I get pulled in, like on Twitter, it's my feed, but then they have For You, which is all, politics and all this stuff, and I visually get like sick from it, like, if
Mhm.
especially in the morning, and it's a real sign that it's just not a healthy behavior. The algorithm is begging for me to judge or condemn,
Mhm.
um, and that's just not a natural state. So when we speak of, these psychological ideas, you could be Carl Jung or Course in Miracles. It's all the same. It's projection. The unhealed nature of whoever is being used against them in some form of fashion in all these iterations that we're talking about. In the cult, usually there's a lot of desperation and trauma, um, out of position orientation. As I spoke about, Leo Ryan's daughter at Jonestown ends up in the
Mhm.
Rajneesh cult right after that in Oregon. Doesn't get deprogrammed, doesn't go to therapy, immediately tries to find um, another way and get sucked right back in,
Mhm.
which is unfortunate. And I think these themes of spirituality being a self study program, and the importance of mental health and self reflection. And honestly, can we all say that we do our best not to feed ourselves negative influences? It's a real struggle.
Yeah.
Sometimes what you watch on TV, or what you have on your screens, or your interactions, where you get caught in a gossipy,
Mhm.
judgmental orientation. They have a price to your mental health.
There is a lot of documentaries right now about these cults that we've mentioned, and it really might not be a bad idea for people to look at them, especially if you weren't around when a lot of these things happened. Like the Mother God one. That's just so unbelievable, but I can see how it started, truthfully.
Mm-hmm.
But the Heaven's Gate one as well.
Yep.
There's documentaries about all of them. I have them listed here, but Jonestown in Guyana, Jim Jones, that's the Drink the Kool-Aid one. But the Manson family, there's a lot of psychoanalysis about that,
Yeah.
and that's just the craziest. I mean, just a horrific thing, that just to think that they would do what they would do, whether they were on drugs or not, was just so insane. But when we come back from the next break, we're going to talk about core signs. A group might be a cult. and really kind of go over some of these things and compare them to different situations. But again, if anybody has any questions, comments, you can comment on our live feed, which you can pick up through our sanctuarynetwork.com page, or you can give us a call. If you want to talk, tell us a story, 800-930-2819. So we'll be coming back from the break here after a few minutes. But while I have the chance, let me tell you, we've been talking about Spirit Fest. If you would like any more information, we're on a little bit of a hiatus for February. We'll be back the first weekend in March, though, in the Villages area, which is a new location for us, spiritfestusa.com. And then also we are gearing up for the Natural Wellness Expos to start. We've got an additional show this year, so we've got 4. And we're attracting really great holistic health everywhere, even over to mainstream medical, because there's so many new and cutting edge things out right now that we've been really excited about those. But that's naturalwellnessexpo.com. So, and then also find us on Facebook, the Sanctuary for Mind, Body, and Spirit. Or we cross post a lot, Spirit Fest USA. We've also, the Wellness Expo has a page as well. But keep in touch with us. That's where I'm trying to go with that. So anyway, thank you for sticking with us. And we've got another half an hour filled with information. So join us again after the break.
Hi, I'm Susan from My Enchanted Path, where I create divinely guided candles, intention oils, soaps, and more that make spiritual practice simple, no complicated rituals. The names may be playful, but every product is serious about helping you shift your energy. All fragrances are clean and safe, free from major toxins no one wants in their home or on their skin. With a 5-star rating and over 100,000 customers, MyEnchantedPath.com is a trusted source for charming items for an enchanted life.
Experience the healing magic of the Himalayas. Tibetan singing bowl classes and sessions are available at Gopali Inputs, which is located at downtown St. Petersburg, Florida.
Florida has a great new option for healthy living. Our Natural Health Expos were a hit last year, so 2026 brings more events around Florida. This special event offers health and wellness opportunities for people and pets. High-quality experts in well-being, healing, anti-aging, and natural living. Plus, you'll find speakers, demonstrations, and much more. All details, list of locations, and discounted admission can be found at naturalwellnessexpo.com.
Hi, this is Mark Anthony. I'm the psychic lawyer, also known as the Psychic Explorer, and I'm proud to be teaming up with Dr. Pat Basili for our show, The Psychic and the Doc, your practical paranormal power unleashed. And on this show, all subjects are on the table and no topic is taboo. Tune in, and better yet, call in Thursdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific on TransformationTalkRadio.com.
Hey everybody, oh my goodness, we have got talk radio for all of it.
Really, thank you for blazing the trail for women in talk radio and just being such an inspiration to me and so many other people. What you're doing is so awesome. And, you know, without people like you there to like really step out of the box and go for it, I don't know if someone like me would have ever ended up here, but I'm so happy to be here. And yeah, I just want to thank you for everything you're doing. You're one of my major inspirations.
Welcome back. We're having a really interesting chat this evening about cults, old cults, new cults, the different types of cults. And here with my special guest, Jim Vieira, historical explorer and also spiritual teacher.
Aspiring cult leader.
So for the last half hour, we're going to talk about core signs a group is a cult, and then we're going to follow up with a summary of the things that we've gone over. But one of the so these are the things. If you're involved with a group and one or two or three of these things might hit, you might want to just think. And I know it's really hard when you're in the middle of it because you think, no, I would never have gotten involved with a group that's more or less a cult. But one is authoritarian leadership, where the leader is treated as infallible and divinely guided, and questioning leadership is framed as betrayal. And the leader is exempt from rules imposed on others. So I can see a difference there with the Pope. And but again, a lot of these smaller groups, and I'm trying to even think of any that aren't religious, where that might have been. Nexium. Yeah.
No, there is. Not all religions are cults, and not all cults are religions.
Yeah. Another one is absolute truth claims. The group claims exclusive access to truth, salvation, enlightenment, and that other belief systems are dismissed as ignorant, evil, or dangerous. And that's those are some key words there, because that kind of inspires some kind of unsafe behavior.
Sure.
When they're convinced that other people are evil or dangerous. And the members are discouraged from reading outside material. And I have to say, there are some religions that do that.
I got to say, the more radical orientation you have in anything in religion, that's where these come out. It's like not like, oh, we're all got one, we're all following the path to God or whatever. It's like they are the enemy of this religion. They are the enemy of God. That kind of stuff happens with radicalism, across the board. So that's it's not the religion is the problem. It's the extremism. Even in society, atheists are extreme sometimes, and intolerant and unloving towards others who don't share their ideas. So it's not about anything other than an extreme mindset, a radical mindset.
I like reading opposing views.
Yeah,
I enjoy it. It might strengthen my beliefs, or it might open the door.
And it absolutely, and I'll just speak for my own, I'm alternative researcher. So there's a group that support me, and they pull for me, or they believe my ideas, but you fight against it. And it's like, I'm going to meet with the professional. I'm going to speak at the university. I'm going to objectively reevaluate, which what I thought was true. And I found new evidence that it isn't true. That kind of, it's tough to push through that because there's a lot of ego and resistance there.
Right. And then that's the next thing. Another flag that a group might be a cult is suppression of doubt and critical thinking, where they frame, when you ask a question, they tell you it's your ego, or that you're of a low vibration, or you have a lack of faith. I literally can see this. I just literally can see this. The members are taught to distrust their own reasoning, but doubters are shamed or publicly corrected. And that's what we talked about, shame, using shame as a tool, which would be in the Jodi Hildebrand. That would be a perfect example of how that was. And that's just so sad, because people went to her trusting them, with their mental health, and shared their secrets with them. And then that's what she did. Yeah. But sometimes she was accusing them of things that they hadn't even confessed or admitted to. She was telling them that they were doing this and that they were hiding it from her.
Projecting her own sexual dysfunction and everything. Yeah. The projection was amazing on kids, and it was so striking.
Yeah.
And being possessed by dark entities, projection is the number one tool, would say the Course in Miracles.
Yeah.
And that's when we are in our worst self, our lowest self, is when we project and judge another. If there's only one reality, to condemn another, to judge another, is like drinking poison and waiting for someone else to die, the Buddhists would say. So it's not judge not lest you be judged. It means that there's only one holographic reality. So you're judging yourself, and you secretly feel awful for your judgments anyways.
Another one is the us versus them mentality, that the world is divided into the awakened and the asleep. And that was another thing that drove me crazy, that she used to said. She said there's truth and there's distortion. And I remember one time somebody that was of a conservative church said to me, well, there's only one truth. And that is something that I have really come to learn over the years and years of spiritual study that I've done is that there's many different shades of truth or variations of truth. I feel like something, and tell me how you feel, might actually be true and untrue at the same time.
Yeah, well, what drives you crazy is what Jody Hildebrand was saying. She was like, that's distortion.
Or
It's,
truth. There's no middle ground.
yeah, it's this just completely insane, illogical reiteration over and over again of about this is the truth, and there's no, she doesn't even attempt to answer it. It's like unreachable, infuriating, and that's what you get. But you're getting beaten down. You're not getting given a logical argument that you can believe in and move forward. Your shame, your guilt is being used against you by a psychotic projector. So that's the dynamic that's going on with somebody like Jody Hildebrand.
Right.
And as a semi sane person or persons watching it, you're like horrified. You're like, that's so infuriating. The way she is operating,
I think what just was so hard for me to watch was that she was doing this to the people of the Mormon faith who really wanted to obey the tenets of their church, and she was using that to manipulate them.
And I got to say, I have, because I'm into ancient mysteries and the Mormons are too. I got a lot of Mormon friends. I got a lot of Christian friends, and I actually, I'm really tight with a lot of Mormon people that are super sweet, well-meaning people, and they have tight-knit communities, and they do all this charity work. We're not dissing people or their belief systems. We're just saying that extremism in any of these, is, you got Islam, but then you have Sufism and Rumi and the beauty of all the mystics that come out of it too.
Right.
Extremism, it's the what is it? The Crusades. That's extremism. So,
and the Crusades, I believe what is going on in the Middle Eastern countries is not the very extreme groups is not unlike what happened during the Crusades. It's just, that people need to go through it, or they are going through it, and it's very hard to watch. It's just, there was no internet.
Absolutely. Well, a lot of what you're saying in the list that you're giving is in the extreme elements or the breakaway element of these organized religions.
Right.
Yeah.
But you can see a lot of this in what's going on in the Middle East and, the super conservative countries.
Yeah.
So back to the us versus them mentality. So we've got the awakened and then the asleep, because they're dangerous. But former members are portrayed as broken, evil, or spiritually contaminated. And again, I would encourage people to Google Carol Hubbard versus the J Message group, and to actually see, in real life what can happen with things like that. And I really applaud Carol for having the courage to be able to stand up to that group, because a lot of people didn't. And I'm really glad that all of this is now recorded for people to see. They also, in this us versus them mentality, convince people that leaving the group is equated with personal failure. And again, there's that shame there. So another flag that a group that you're involved with, religious or not, might be control over identity. And the group kind of reshapes how members think, speak, dress, eat, or relate to others. And that is some of the MLM, the multi-level marketing groups as well. Public corrections, confessions, or character attacks are normalized. And relationships with ex-members are discouraged or forbidden. Sure. And that's what we talked about, was isolation and trying to cut people off from anybody who isn't involved with that. Then also emotional manipulation being the key word there. Love bombing during recruitment, withdrawal of affection later. And that is something I think even with some of the organized religions, I think happens. I think that when people are interested in maybe joining the religion, they're all, given a job, right off the bat, made to feel inclusive and things like that. And then kind of once they're more entrenched a little bit, then that kind of goes away. Fear, guilt, or shame or spiritual threats used to enforce compliance. And then the members feel like they can never do enough. That sounds just like a dysfunctional relationship.
It's funny you said that, because my next comment was going to be, even like subtle iterations of these ideas, and the people listening and us, we're geared towards like unraveling our insanity and our false beliefs. We're committed. So we are driven to do this. But like I have this transactional relationship with this person, and I really I don't like the way it goes or the way it makes me feel, or my partnership with my husband and wife, there's this dysfunction here, and I should really, we should talk about it, or resolve it or whatever, because these creep into all our relationships. And it's good just to have a subtle awareness as you go through life, a non-reactivity and a questioning of like, yeah, I was just being a fake good guy there because I want something out of that person. My boss, I'm going to be this way. I'm going to be this way with a different person. So, I try to do that in my own life, is to really uh, evaluate how I operate and how I behave in front of different people, and if I'm trying to be transactional or not. So it's just, this is, uh, I think, really healthy. This is like ultimate health, because you could say, oh, I got to get up earlier and I got to work harder. It's like nervous system reset, retraining your mind from, that's why Course in Miracles is so good, retraining yourself out of insane thought systems. And so you could be saying, I'm not in a cult, but I am subjected to these egoic tendencies that are not healthy for me or the people in my life.
But it should be a give and take, just like in a good personal relationship. There should be a give and take with these organizations as well, or spiritual groups or whatever. But I'm going to think about Catholic Church. What is a good give and take? You go, let's say you put money in the donation basket. The church does do a lot of good things with that money. And it makes you feel good. You know that it's going somewhere. So you look at, is there any good things? You can definitely be able to parcel things out and see where they are. But if there's not a lot of give and just a lot of take, then you might be involved with a cult.
Yeah, and the more extreme religious aspects, or the extreme wings of these religions, are more intolerant to like people's behavior, their personal choices. You notice that it's like, oh, gay marriage is really condemned here. Oh, the church is fine, or they're moderate, but over here, or you get these different religions. So it's the extremism. It's not really the religion. Extremism. I can't make a case for extremism at all in politics, in anything.
Right.
And I was trapped in a political extremism for a long time, thinking I was right. So I can feel it. I could feel that, and I was filled with like rage and disgust and projection, and like the problem is out there, and none of that was true. I will say that.
And then you ask yourself, do you want to be right or happy?
That's a Course in Miracles.
Yeah. Another sign that you might be involved with a cult is exploitation. And this could be money, labor, time, or sex. So there might be pressure to donate your money or all of your money, buy courses, attend costly events, or work unpaid. There's a lot of groups, I think, that do that. And for an example, with Spirit Fest, which is a spiritual event where you would go and again can partake in many different things, we always make sure that there is value. And if our goal was to separate you from your money, things do not go well. We are not successful. When we look at being able to provide the most amount of resources for the best price possible, the universe just provides. It's just great how that happens. And if there should be that, so we had heard, it's still common, unfortunately, that if something is spiritual, it should be free. So like to come here, you talk about spirituality. Let's say you're just talking about in Course in Miracles, and people think that we shouldn't even charge to get into Spirit Fest. Well, they don't understand that we pay tens of thousands of dollars for the venues that we rent alone. And in order to be able for them to have found out about our event, we had to have marketed it to them. There's things that go into that.
I think it's when the fees are exorbitant, or there's special information that is got a big price tag. Those are the red flags.
So you're not paying Jim for his spiritual teachings. You're paying him for his time, for his research, for all of the work that he's done. That's an equal energy exchange. That would just to use that as an example.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. It is a big written. Sex is another one where
that's a common one too.
I studied with an enlightened spiritual teacher for like 20 years weekly, but he's funny as hell. It's funny. His movie character, What's Left Behind, is super funny. And I was going to a place to do psychedelics, like an old church that my friend was running. And it was really nice. It was like we'd have these ceremonies, we'd do ayahuasca and stuff like that. We'd have shamans in. and he called it the sex club.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a sex club, but well, the point is that sex is always in the middle of a lot of this because it's like desire and it can ignite a lot of emotions. It can be used against you, especially in unhealed people. So it's drugs, it's sex, it's power, it's shame. These things. I think I'll just speak about myself. Like Mary Ellen knows my story. I live in a tiny cabin, and I'm like a weirdo monk for the last 10 years, kind of burning out my external, my desperations, my neediness, my external searching. And it's been good. It's just humbled me. It's made me non-reactive. And that's a good orientation to take into the world. Just like I don't really need anything except just paying the bills. And, I don't wish away success or abundance, but I just try to have what I have and be thankful for it in a humble, non-reactive way. And that sets you straight, evaluating your life and not getting caught up in these things. Where when I was out of position in the past and I was desperate, I get in all kinds of pinches. And that's what this list is all about, these pulls in that direction.
So an idea of exploitation is that sacrifice is framed as spiritual devotion, but so is sex. That you're doing that to show your devotion to this group or whatever.
Yeah.
You just have to know. That is unfortunately a thing I've seen with individual spiritual teachers, not even in a group, or healers, that they'll convince you that, there needs to be.
That's one of the
that only
weirdest,
they can
toughest
help you.
ones. Like there's yoga studios where I live. I mean, ashrams out in Western Mass, like all these stories, dozens of women sleeping with the guy, and then the husbands are separated. And it's just like beyond one partner, it's like red flags everywhere.
Yeah.
And I don't want to denigrate that, but it must show the power of the persuasiveness of sex. The women must feel special.
Right.
Yeah.
So the next one, information control. The leadership controls the narratives about the group's histories and critics. If they rewrite history, you might be in a cult. And I'm gonna not name names. Members are told not to trust outside sources, media, or ex-members. Critical information is labeled as attacks or lies. And I think that that's a common manipulation thing. I don't think that that's even necessarily just a sign of a cult, but it's how you're being manipulated. And what's that saying? If you smelt it, you dealt it. Often the people that are convincing you that somebody else is lying are probably the ones doing the lying. So just a thought. Another sign that you might be involved in a cult is fear of leaving. That members are made to feel anxious, have guilt or terror even at the idea of leaving. The threat of spiritual consequences, that you're never going to amount to ever anything after this, or that God has removed his favor from you. I've heard that before. And they leave feeling psychologically impossible, not just undesirable. It's just a form of manipulation. So those are definitely some some big flags. So ask yourself, if you have to say you think, don't wait too long, because you can always look back and say, I should have known. This is when I should have known.
Or it could be more subtle. It could be a men's group, and the leader of the group he has way much more airtime than everybody else. Full of himself, talks down or lectures people. It's just like that's not the way it should be. That there might be a subtle hierarchy, but anybody who is dishing out any kind of shame, any kind of criticism, forget about it. That is not that's not a healthy orientation at all.
Right.
And anybody who's filled with that kind of ego, you don't want to even be with. You don't want to be free. You don't just want to bless them away and have them out of your life.
Right. And that's, some tips that we wanted to give people too. If this feels personal to you, if you resonate with some of these things, and you may have gotten involved with a group, a cult to a certain degree or not. And I can speak from experience. When I was involved with the group, it was a year or so, maybe more, but some of my very best friends and dearest friends were members of that group. And it was really hard to leave. And even when you realize that this is just all BS, and then you ask yourself, how did I get caught up into this? It is still really hard to leave, because it's just like in a divorce, your friends are going to have to make a choice. And but no, you are not weak. and that you were influenced using psychological techniques. And that's why we wanted to bring up dark entities.
Yeah.
Because it might not necessarily be just the machinations of somebody who's super smart and knows how to um, influence people or manipulate people. They literally might be involved with dark entities, whether it's just a lower vibration entity that is they're channeling or that they're working through, or actual dark spirits or demons, which we have seen. And it's not as uncommon as people think, sadly.
Not at all. Not at all. Once
Yeah.
again, alcohol is a gateway there, trauma. And yeah, so it's not even, is it a negative entity? Is it somebody's ego? It's all the same mechanism essentially. It's a force or a system is trying to manipulate you, and turn yourself against yourself by your own guilt, your own shame, your own unworthiness.
So
essentially,
what I would recommend too is once you've come to this realization, don't view it as a waste of time. I can't believe that I wasted all this time or all this money or all these things or whatever. It was a good learning opportunity. You may have actually gotten some good information from it. You know, take with it what you will, leave the rest behind.
Yeah.
But you can definitely move on and find other ways to get what it is that you need, whether it's community or information or the resources or whatever. And again, this is not a commercial, but this is why we do Spirit Fest, is so that you can learn about different groups and different teaching people, things that you can get involved with online or in your area. That is literally why we do what we do. So that, and we do vet all of the vendors that we have at Spirit Fest.
yeah.
So
One thing I'd say is having a context that you carry around with you in life of understanding of your spiritual nature. That's why, once again, I like the Course in Miracles, Ramana Maharshi, Advaita Vedanta, Ashtavakra Gita, the Upanishads. All these texts, all these teachers are saying that you are perfect, you're eternal, you're blissful, and you have fallen into matter and time and space, and it's a temporary experience. So it's like it allows you to be non-reactive. And you see it as a hologram, or no, you see it as like one creation from the one. So it's like it's much easier to forgive. How about this? The Course in Miracles is you forgive everything all day long, day after day. I forgive, I release, I bless over and over again. How can you get in trouble doing that? And that's the prime directive of A Course in Miracles. You forgive, and it erases all the false thoughts about yourself.
forgiving yourself's the hardest
Forgiving
part.
yourself is,
Yeah.
and you do it, you help it, you erode the restrictions by forgiving others, no matter what they look like, no matter what you think they've done. And it's just a remarkable thought system. My point is, when you have an understanding of your own divinity and eternal nature, then you can take it into everyday life and just let the world be, bless it, be helpful, don't be judgmental, and not like, oh, I'm so good. It's more like, I forgive everything I see over and over again. And when I don't forgive, I forgive myself for not forgiving so quickly. And, then you have something to fall back on. There's a safety net. You don't get caught up in emotionality like you used to. So whatever path you choose, I recommend some of the ones I mentioned.
We want to just give some clarifications too. Not all cults are religious, as we pointed out. Not all religions are cults by any means. The difference is control, not belief content. So that again is what we're looking at. And a healthy group allows questions, dissent, leaving without punishment, and independent identity.
Yeah.
A cult does not do any of those things. So, as I said, I had people comment to me that they had loved ones or friends that were involved in these groups that had cut them off and isolated from them. What do you do? If you could look at the documentary about Nexium, you could see what Catherine Oxenberg went to be able to kind of wake her daughter up, which she eventually did, thank goodness. But my suggestion would be, don't give up. Let them know that you're still there. I think going to the place and banging on the window and demanding they leave with you is maybe going to end in some heartache. But every situation is different. It depends on what it is. But letting the person know that you're always going to be there for them, and then sometimes giving them an out, after they stand up for themselves for so long and said that this is what I want to do. And then if they come to that realization, it's going to be hard for them to come home and admit that they were wrong.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's like parenting, I'm the safety net here. And imagine us at age 25, like in the way we would lecture our kids about you got to do this and this and this, just totally tuned out. You're on your own path. And especially if somebody's in a cult, there's no reaching them for a while. But it's like the lack of condemnation, I am a loving, supporting force in your life. And then it's just like that's becoming more and more appealing as this lunatic is going more and more off the rails, as I feel worse and worse about myself. The energy that you can share with someone, it's like that energy is attracting my right mind. That peace and comfort and sanity will override that in most cases eventually. But like Mary Ellen said, the condemnation, that I told you so, that they have to be deprogrammed, but not in an intellectual way. Like, let the therapist take care of that. It's more like just sharing an energetic state that is comforting and non-judgmental is most important for anybody, for any relationship. Quite honestly.
Yeah. Good point.
I'm very smart. Yeah.
The cult of Jim.
Well, I'm going to say, I got one disciple, my teddy bear, so I'm not doing too good on the cult. Somebody told me I was in the cult. I was a cult leader, actually, online. Yeah, but
seriously?
Yeah. I think it was because I went into, some people don't like when I talk metaphysics, when I do ancient mysteries stuff.
Yeah.
It's ancient mysteries is a gateway drug to metaphysics for a lot of people and spirituality.
Yeah.
So I get in, on podcasts and stuff, I get into it, but that rubs people the wrong way sometimes,
Let's just find a way to get along, for heaven's sake. Right? Let's find what we have in common, and I think, and again, a lot of these ancient mystery shows, they're pointing out information. Sometimes you'll gravitate towards this stuff, sometimes you won't, but it's really good to explore. When we know where we came from, we're going to know where we're going. Oh, we got 2 minutes. We got to go. Thank you, everybody, for staying with us. This has been a lot of fun. We've really enjoyed presenting this information. I hope that you would give this link to people who might need to hear it and share this information with them. So Jim Vieira, I'm going to spell his last name Vieira, and you can find him on Facebook and look for his newest book, Footprints of the Gods, coming out soon. Look for me on spiritfestusa.com on Facebook, Instagram, and our website. And then same with the sanctuarynetwork.com. We'll have all of the different links to our different places where you can find us. So look for us every Wednesday at 8:00 here on the Transformation Network. And we really appreciate you being with us. So thank you, everybody. See you next week. Thank you for spending this time with me here on the Sanctuary Network. Tune in every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern on the Transformation Network as we gather to share stories, wisdom, and practices that remind us of something essential. Sanctuary isn't just a place you go, it's a space you create in your heart, your home, and your daily life. I hope today's conversation sparked something in you, a sense of belonging, a new idea, or simply a reminder that you are not alone on this journey. If this touched you, please share it with someone who could use a little light. Together, we can grow this circle of sanctuary and inspire a ripple of healing around the world. And don't forget, the journey continues at spiritfestusa.com, thesanctuarynetwork.com, and naturalwellnessexpo.com. And of course, every week right here on Transformation Network. Until next time, may you be well, may you be inspired, and may you live fully in sanctuary.